Thank you for standing by me, for cheering me on, for not being threatened
Absolutely.
by my ideas, for adding on to my dreams.
Yeah.
If everybody would have one friend like you, it'd be good.
Hey guys, it's Angela from the Angela Rose Show, where we unveil stories of religious abuse. Today I'm with a guest and we're going to chat a little bit about what it's like to be women in business coming from a high demand religious culture where women didn't dare do things on their own like that. So, Jess.
Yes, let's talk about
It's good to have you back again.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, what's it like being starting a career as a woman coming from the culture? Like you came from the Amish culture.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Well, it's no walk in the park, that's for sure. There's so many layers that we could talk about here because it's not even just what you go through in your own brain, like the imposter syndrome and feeling like I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, but also the response that you might feel or hear.
So it makes me think maybe we should dive into what the expectations are for women who grow up Amish or Mennonite or in similar.
How are things supposed to look?
What was our destination supposed to be as women? Because that might help us to unpack why we deal with some of this imposter syndrome when we step out like this.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yes, it would.
So some of the expectations as women.
For me specifically, I would definitely think of two words.
Yeah.
Submissive and silent.
Ooh. Yeah.
Along with submission is also the docile. You just go along with everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're naturally more of a nurturer, more of like a loving gender is what we're taught. And so our job would have been to stay home, have babies, be supportive of the man who goes out to work or who has his own business. And we are like the homemaker.
Right. The men typically in our cultures would be the ones to make the money and have a career, and the women were usually the ones to have the baby, stay home, sometimes homeschool, sometimes they would send them to school, make food, garden, homemake.
Yeah. And some women really enjoy that. Some women choose that, even from other cultures.
Right.
It's, especially right now, it's like the ideal dream to be like a gardener and to have a big family and to homeschool and make your sourdough bread.
Good things, really good things.
Yeah, but what about the people that it doesn't work for? What about the women who wouldn't choose that lifestyle?
Right. What if you aspire to be a nurse or get a degree and work in the mental health field?
God forbid, lawyer.
Oh, yeah. It's too much.
Yes, that's too far.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you've been really successful, Angela, with your blog, and you've really stepped out. You've approached some subjects that no one else would find fun or easy to talk about.
Right.
Based off of your own experiences and what you've seen in the Amish and Mennonite cultures.
Yeah.
Mennonite for sure, since that was your experience.
Yeah, I was from the Mennonites.
How was it for you when you started writing?
So when I started writing, that was a huge step for me of just doing something on my own, like with my own name.
Yeah.
I started out with using my name on the blog, and it was really lonely. And the reason it was really lonely have been because at the time I was still freshly out leaving the Mennonites.
I hear you.
And so I knew to do what I really wanted to do and to write about the things that I wanted to write about would not be the approval of how I was raised. I was going to be talking about those very things and how they impacted me negatively. So I knew that I wasn't going to have the support of the people in my past. Rather, a lot of the conditioning of my past would have, like was pushing against that. Like,
Yeah.
you would, that would be too much to speak up as a woman. Women weren't to teach or speak and lead. And so that was kind of against the very conditioning, to do that, the dream was kind of against my conditioning. But I knew it was for me. I knew I
Yes.
wanted to talk. I knew I had things to say, and I knew it was
Yes.
going to be an essential component to my recovery,
Yes.
is to put my confusion into words. And my heart in that, when I started the writing blog, was really for to put that confusion into words for others that would be still dealing with confusion, so that they could gain clarity from it. And it was kind of like, for me, both and. I was doing it for myself, for clarity and empowering, releasing emotions through words, which was therapeutic. And I was like hopeful that putting it out there for others would also, be a positive thing.
And it so has.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
So that was like the vision. But the
Yeah.
lonely part was coming from a community that was very isolated. I didn't really have a lot of people in my life at that point, fresh out of the Mennonites, like, that knew me, that would been cheering for me.
Yeah.
Like, I had to create a whole new network.
Yeah.
And that was very lonely. And also, it wasn't going to stop me,
No.
because I wasn't new to lonely.
Yeah.
And at that point, it felt to me like I had no choice. I felt like, for me, I was going to die a slow, emotional, invisible death if I didn't say something about my experiences.
Your passion would have fizzled out.
Right? I wanted to do something.
You had to feed it.
That was who I was. And I knew in my heart of hearts that I had something to say, and I wanted to say it, and I needed to give myself permission to do it. But yeah, I would say just extremely lonely, because you come from a conditioning where you don't have cheerleaders. You don't have people saying, like, go be who you want to be. You had to find that on your own. Yeah.
And that's such a humbling and generous thing for you to do, to be willing to share your words of vulnerability and authentic experiences. Put it out there for people who draw their own conclusions. Some receive it as a threat, some are helped.
Right.
Some feel seen.
And I think that was an important thing for me to learn, as I started to publicly share things and write processes about my own emotional processing. It was really important for me to learn to own my own emotions and experiences.
Yeah.
Again, very different than what I was,
Yes, ma'am.
programmed. Learning to do that, and also be okay that I'm not responsible for how it's perceived. Is that the right word? Perceived on the other side of the internet. That I knew in my intuitive side that I wasn't the only one. And I also knew that what I have to say isn't for everyone.
No.
And it was my heart, like, hey, let's put this out there for those that will feel understood by. And also, I'm not responsible for how others perceive my story and my work. And that was freeing.
What a relief.
Yeah. Just to give
Say,
myself
this is what I can control. This is what I need to let go of.
Yes.
This isn't my deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was big. Like, that's a big step,
Yeah.
coming from a lifetime of really feeling responsible for everyone else's emotions and their perception of me. Like, to really learn to rewrite those narratives was big.
It's a battle too, because even though you're not going to go there, you're not going to think about how they perceive it or change up what you have to say.
Yeah.
There's still that feeling sometimes of feeling misunderstood.
Let's talk
and
about that, because you
misrepresented.
write too. Like,
Yeah.
what is it? How many years? A year after I started, you opened your blog? I don't know. How long?
Yeah, I started
way.
in 2023.
So you started writing too.
I did.
And
I started sharing my experiences, and wow, I felt like whatever shame still needed to come out came out then.
yeah.
Because people were actually pretty vocal in the beginning.
What would you hear?
Having their opinion of my experiences and seeing things differently. Going into writing, I was always such a writer in school. I would start these books. I would write notebook after notebook, and
Really?
poetry would just flow through my brain. And it was such a peaceful part of me that went away when things got tough, but that resurfaced when I was able to find some safety and some healing. Um, and when I decided to start writing in more of a public way,
Mm-hmm.
putting my thoughts and experiences out there without explaining myself, I was very afraid. And I didn't know what I was afraid of because there were so many things that they're unspoken.
Right.
You don't know. You just know there's a risk there. My circle got a lot smaller when I opened my blog.
And why was that? Like, what did you see happen in your circle of relationships over the time you opened your blog and you started doing the coaching? Both, you started to really own your story and lean
Yeah.
into the
I
living.
did it all at once.
Yeah.
I did it all at once. And
What did that mean to your relationships at that time?
it meant that there was going to be a separation from the fake and the people who truly wished the best for me and wanted to be a part of my life. And it sounds really drastic, and it wouldn't have had to have been so drastic.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there were a lot of conversations that could have been had and conflict that could have been navigated through if people would have been willing to understand me and where I was coming from and what my heart was behind the words that I had to share. But instead it was chaos, and some people just disappeared from my life. Some people
Wow.
had an actual bone to pick with me, or doubted my experiences,
Mm-hmm.
even my childhood,
Wow.
doubted the statements that I would say in a very respectful, loving way, as loving as I could. I had to say the truth
Yeah.
because there's hope in truth.
So the more you were leaning into who you really are, your passions,
Mm-hmm.
your dream. So what I'm hearing and seeing here is you're stepping into success and thriving, and your story's still with you. You're starting to really own some positive things, and in the culture, it makes me think of in the culture. In my experiences, personally, a lot of times, relationally, I didn't feel valued unless I was struggling.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like
Yes.
I could have relationships or connections with the other fellow women, particularly because, let's face it, we weren't friends with the men. It was like the women with the women, and so
Shoot.
I know we missed out.
We did.
And that's another story for another
Yes.
day.
Yes.
Because I love to be around the men. Oh, I need to hear from both.
I know.
I feel like we need each
Have
other.
some great man friends.
Yes, it's
Yes.
so fun to have that today.
It
to enjoy
is.
male relationships.
It's very important to
And
me.
again, very deprived of that. We'll hit that on another day. That's going to be a good one. The gender stuff. But as I was saying about like, for me personally, a lot of the times, like I felt like I was valued if things were going really bad. Not valued, but like people paid attention to like difficult things. But like if I wasn't struggling or struggling per se, and when I started to own who I am, because I'm not my struggles, right?
Yes, you're not your struggles.
So I started to own who I am aside from, yes, my struggles are here, my trauma's here, my story's with me, but I'm also owning and learning to know who I am and what I want for my life.
Yes.
After I left. And as that started happening, I think it was like a stab in the chest to realize that a lot of the people weren't going to be a part of that journey. And I think that helped me really see who was for me.
Yeah.
For who I am, because this is the real Angela here.
Or who was getting their emotional fix by saving you and helping you.
It felt like betrayal.
Yeah.
To look back and realize that as long as I was this, in this place where I was their project per se, that
it's a violation of
emotionally we could trauma bond, I guess, is what was going on. Like I was accepted as a woman in the culture as long as I was, in a place that was more where, yeah, it gave others value to be a part of like my pain. But when I stepped into owning some of my utmost goodness, I felt a lot of that abandonment
It was a
happen.
threat. It was a threat to some people who just,
It got quiet.
yeah, it
People
got, oh,
disappeared.
that was so lonely.
That
And
quietness. Let's
yes,
talk about that.
and you don't know what they're thinking because it's like, just tell me, like, let's talk about it. What's going on?
Can you just say
People
something?
just, yeah.
Yeah.
So many would just like ghost.
There was no
altogether.
acknowledgement.
There was
Jess.
no acknowledgement.
Little to zero acknowledgement, because yes, like a lot of people knew our, my childhood story and some of the stuff in my life, and it was like that was known. But like when I started to own again, ultimately things about who I am,
Yeah.
I just really desired to hear like somebody acknowledge who that was and value and appreciate and respect that I'm owning something that I
Yes.
care about.
Yes.
Like what I'm so happy for you that you started writing and that you're pursuing your dream.
This
That
is
would have
awesome.
meant
Yeah.
something. And I had none of that.
Yeah.
I just went and and today I've built a full community. Like
Right.
today
Right.
it's not quiet.
Wasn't now,
But it took time.
it did.
It was
But
weird.
now looking back,
Yeah.
it seems like a long time.
Yeah.
But do you see the people we have collaborating now were
Oh.
never in our life 3 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really fast.
Yeah.
That's not too long of a time
No.
to be a little bit lonely
Yeah.
for that type of
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
because
know-
we push each other on.
Oh my, yeah. In the community now, I think it's come full circle because now you find
Yeah.
your people. When you start to, what amazed me too, and I didn't know this was going to happen as I kind of stepped out, pursuing my voice as a woman and my passions. But what fascinated me is when I started to own that, I ended up realizing that other people who were owning theirs were the ones that came my way.
Yes.
So people who had self-respect,
Yes, they had met with themselves there.
they were not threatened by
Yeah.
that. They leaned in.
Yes.
They already had their sense of self. They were owning their,
Yes.
and these were the people that I started to see come my way. And I tell you, that is a life-changing experience.
It is. And then there's the people that you're reaching with your words, who have so much respect for you,
Yeah.
for your kindness and your compassion, to be willing to share that and be that vulnerable with them.
So it was interesting to me how you used the word generous.
Mm-hmm.
How is generous when we offer the best of us, all of us, to
Yeah.
others. It really builds connection. And that was my heart and goal. But it was really, it was a rewriting of narratives because the condition I'd come from 20 years prior, I would have been under
I know where you're going.
Yeah, I would have been under the impression to do what I began, the work of writing on blog, would have been would have been very selfish of me.
You are
How
so full
dare
of yourself.
How dare you pity your
Yeah.
little self and put your hurts out there?
You're just making it all about you.
You little pity party.
Yeah.
You're just a victim.
You're bleeding out.
You're bleeding out on everyone. You're making everyone sick.
Yeah.
You don't offer any hope.
And you never get over it.
And will she ever get over it? Like all of the sneering, haunting voices of the past were happening. And they still come up at times. And I think I wanted to mention this because
Yes,
it's so, speaking of realistic trauma recovery, we can enter into owning these things as women, but the conditions of our past are a part of our life.
Yeah.
And we get better at owning who we are.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's important to remember that, like, our past lives within us, and to not be surprised when
Yes.
those voices will come up.
It's predictable.
And they do.
It is predictable.
But I think what gives me excitement is I have now the tools to navigate when that comes up.
Yes.
The voice of reason over here reminds me who
Yes.
I am.
That
And yeah.
balance, like this has risen up, even though this is still here.
Yes.
This has risen up, and it reminds you.
Yeah.
Like this is where I need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
Yeah.
think that the voices are just going to get quieter and quieter the more we get
Keep
used
owning.
to this. Keep
Yeah.
owning it. Keep showing up.
It
Keep
just
doing our
gets
thing.
less. Yeah.
Yeah. When I started my business, I First of all, never imagined that anything would actually happen. I did what I felt like I needed to do,
Mm-hmm.
put myself out there,
Mm-hmm.
and within the first week, I had clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember several months later, I was in a group setting, and somebody asked me, "Did you get your first client yet?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's going well."
Mm-hmm.
But just that narrative
Mm-hmm.
that it's rarely spoken, but when it does come out, you kind of get the idea that in their minds that you're right where they want you to be, and you're not responsible for that narrative.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to turn out the way that they want it to.
Do you feel like that almost like you said, these unspoken narratives, expectations, the pressure, just the conditioning that we came from in the cultures, these suppressive, controlling cultures? Wouldn't you say that there was almost this unspoken wishful hoping you crash and burn?
Yeah.
Like really hoping because
Some people actually
did you
told me
feel
that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Like you're
almost
going down.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're not. Like you started
Like
getting clients out the
yeah.
and you started to blow up before you had time to blink. People didn't
Which
expect
really
that.
freaked me out because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I'm a fake. Like this isn't okay.
Yeah.
Because the imposter syndrome came out of nowhere and was
It's
like,
awful.
oh, like, is this okay? What am I going to do now that it's actually happening?
Yeah. It's a lot.
Thank goodness I had a lot of support.
Yeah. A
I
lot of
had-
voices of reason.
Yes. Good
Yeah.
voices of reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people can't control when you begin to own who you are and what you want, use your voice and do these things that are human rights. That is something that another person can't control. And I think it really does start to filter relationships as we grow in recovery.
Yeah.
It really does. It's like supernaturally filter our relationships of who is for us and
Yeah.
willing to respect that individuality.
And who is going to be able to be supportive of what we're building and our growth in the future too.
Yeah.
Like who is growing themselves. I have a friend, one of my dear, dear friends. We knew each other from the past.
Yeah.
And her and I have both consistently been growing and learning, becoming healthier over the years. And while many friendships have we kind of grew apart because our lives changed and we grew different directions. Her and I have gotten closer and closer because of the way she has shown up for herself.
Okay.
And I have shown up for myself, and our paths are staying together.
So what you're saying is, again, that ownership gives that sense of agency and self-recovery gives you the capacity to also respect and enter into relationships in a healthier
Even if
space.
people are choosing different lifestyles.
Absolutely.
Even if people have different careers.
Well, we come from a culture where different was not okay.
Yes.
And I think like even just that idea of learn, like I don't think we learned in our culture that we originate from how to appreciate someone going off and doing something completely
Diversity.
unless me and you are both pushing out babies and doing gardening every day. We can't have a relationship.
We can do that too.
Yes, we can. But like, you know what I mean? Like we bond over what we're doing. And if you're doing something different to me, I ain't got nothing to say to you.
Yeah. What
like
do we talk
it was
about?
almost like there was that indifference. And that for me growing up under that was, I feel like it made me feel trapped and pressured. And I kind of reacted to that because
the walls were there.
I did not want to I didn't want my relationship with you based off of the fact that we both had two boys. Like, I wanted more.
That
I wanted
narrows
something
down
more.
the options. Yeah.
I was okay. Like, I wanted to be friends with you if you were been a nurse in the ER, and I was always drawn.
So curious about different lifestyles. Yeah.
At a very young age, I was just like, I want to be friends with him, her, and that. Like outside of this bubble.
Yeah.
And to this day, again, that is a huge passion of mine is to network with people who are different than me.
Yeah.
That bring a perspective that I crave. or a value. Well, all of the
And don't
above.
you learn so much from that?
Oh, it's
So much.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm, coming again from a lot of isolation. I'm starved to learn and discover.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important in relationships.
It is.
To respect these different places.
It's like you're kind of entering back into childhood again a little bit because,
Yeah.
that curiosity and
Yeah.
discovery
Yeah.
and imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's something too about what we've chosen.
Yeah.
That adds a different layer to all of this because, it was a pretty brave move to start writing on social media. For me, that got me in trouble big time. And last year, I spent thousands of dollars just gaining back the rights to my own story because my mom wanted to take me to court for defamation.
Wow.
So coming out of that experience and then coming back into coaching and into the mental health world, it's a whole other layer of courage. Because if you would have done house cleaning, like let's do a house cleaning business, let's bake bread to sell.
It's so much safer.
Yeah.
And more accepted. Right? Even from the people of our past, we're no longer a part of the
still in your
Amish or
general,
Mennonites.
like you're still doing your woman thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because as an outsider now, we are no longer a part of the community, but I would genuinely say that if I were a bread maker right now instead of a blogger or a podcaster, if I was making bread and I had a stand at the end of my lane, I already know that the Mennonites would be super proud of me. I mean, I don't know, but like they feel like she's doing the right thing.
Oh, they'd buy.
You know what I mean?
Buy.
It would be accepted, and maybe I would actually be recognized. I would probably be more accepted and recognized.
Yeah. Well, there wouldn't be that unspoken energy, like the elephant in the room.
It's not uncomfortable to sell bread. It's not dangerous.
Right.
We have entered into the utmost sin of all sins.
Like, it's not just the idea of having a business, being an entrepreneur, but also the subject.
Oh, we have entered into saying the things that,
and there's
or
also
the utmost rejection.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which it can feel like you're re-traumatizing yourself during the process at times because we come from a lot of genuine rejection.
Is this self-betrayal again?
I know we've asked ourselves this a lot, but it's not.
It's not. It's the goodness.
The gaslighting comes
up.
Oh,
yeah.
And I think it's important to talk about this stuff because as we cult survivors are recovering from these mind conditions, the gaslighting, the questions, you little fraud.
Oh, yeah.
They are a part of the process.
Yeah.
Who are you to be? And you know who you are and what you're doing.
You think your story is really great, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, how is it? Because it has to be a certain amount of bad in their minds to be able to write a book or talk about it.
Right.
And nobody knows where those boundaries or lines are.
Right.
Like, what are we talking about bad? You know?
Yeah. Huh. I would love to chat a little bit about the victim. You're just being a victim. If you so let's say you share your life story and someone tells you that little victim. She's just never gonna get over it. Like
here she is again.
Like, or there's no hope.
Yeah, she must be having a really bad day.
What is what's behind that and what's really going on?
What am I doing when I post something about like depression or I could be doing homeschool with my kids that day. I could be coaching that day.
Right.
I could be out on the town. Really
having one of your favorite days, best days of the week.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to understand that when a lot of writers will be emotionally processing things that aren't per se happening that day.
Right.
And I think that we come from a condition that is very black and white thinking. And when it's like, oh my gosh, that girl must be just flat out on the couch crying out today, she's not okay. you might be the day like I'm actually
Yeah.
doing quite well. I'm writing about something that happened 10 years ago,
Right.
and I'm okay.
Right.
I don't need anything from
Mhm.
you. I'm just sharing my process
Mhm.
out loud,
Or
and it's good.
or the days where you are having a bad day.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Right.
What's wrong with talking about depression on a day
Wow.
where you're hurting
And you're not a victim doing that.
and you're not a
Like
victim?
that victim
No.
shaming is horrific.
Yes.
Um,
It's one of the most
It's to
used
silence.
silencing tactics.
yeah, it's one of the greatest silencing
Yeah.
tactics I've seen used.
It don't work for me, baby.
Yeah.
It don't work anymore.
Well, it hasn't done what it was intended to do for us.
No. It kind of spurs you on.
It does.
Yeah.
Because it really reminds you of being silenced, and you're
And
like, you know
why.
what?
Yeah.
Today I speak, and I will continue to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the reason why I do what I do.
This is what fuels my passion.
Mhm. Thank you for standing by me, for cheering me on, for not
Yeah.
being threatened
Absolutely.
by my ideas, for adding on to my dreams.
Yeah.
If everybody would have one friend like you, we'd be good.
Well, I could chat about what you've been giving me as well in our relationship, and it's been incredible. So, yeah. Since we're talking about what, I think you brought that up, I want to talk a little bit about what you've given to me in our friendship as well that has been so empowering to me. And it did start when we met at the retreat, but you're a very grounded person and one of the best listeners I have ever met.
Mm.
And when I say a good listener, it's more than just being someone quiet. Like, you are attuned to people emotionally, and that's what makes you the coach that you are. Like, you don't just listen, but you hear. There's a difference.
That's my heart.
And you hear, you lean in, and you respond intuitively and accordingly. And since meeting you, that's been empowering to me. As someone who talks a lot, I have a lot to say. And again, a lot of pain and rejection in my past around that not being accepted or seen or valued. Your relationship and friendship has offered space and voice for me by just hearing me. And that has been regulating to my nervous system, right? As I rewrite those narratives, like, no, I don't talk too much. I have something important to offer this world. I have learned to believe that for myself by having people like you in my life reflect that beauty back to me by truly tuning in.
Yes.
And I have always felt that value by your grounded presence. It's almost hard to explain. But,
And to be believed by someone.
Yeah.
Because you explain and you explain
Yeah.
until you know that you're understood and you're believed.
Right. And we stop over explaining when our nervous system unconsciously knows that we're being heard.
Yes. They're not just thinking of the next thing to say. They're with me right now in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that just brings us back to your coaching and why I believe you have been so successful in that. Because your strength comes so strong through in that area, and it's a gift to so many others of regulation. Co-regulation is a thing, girl.
It is. It's such an important thing.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to be here at this time in my life, and
Yeah.
grateful for what I have, for my family, and for the life that is ahead of me. I have dreams.
Yeah.
I have more dreams than ever. I'm hoping to.
We're just getting started.
Yeah. I'm hoping to write a book. I'm hoping to expand.
Yeah.
In ways that I can reach more people.
Right.
I've met so many beautiful, courageous humans.
Yeah.
Who just needed an avenue.
Right.
To show up.
Just some tools to continue finding that inner power.
It's humbling. It's humbling to be here, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times it leaves me speechless.
It does.
Which is so fulfilling. So fulfilling.
Yeah. I wouldn't have asked for this.
Yeah. So Jess and I both write publicly on blogs on Facebook. We do specialize in writing relatable content that we hope can meet you right where you're at today. So if you're interested in following our writing, follow Jess at Wild Olive Branch Coaching, and then you can find my writing at Angela Rose on Facebook. Give us a like. We'd be very appreciative and look forward to learning to know you